I'm sure you've seen everywhere that BYD overtook Tesla to become the largest EV car manufacturer in the world. What they don't tell you is that BYD's market share in the EV car space in Europe and US is less than 0.1%. So in this episode, we will be answering one question. Can the largest EV car manufacturer in the world, BYD, penetrate the EV car space in the West? So to tackle this question, we will break down our discussion into three parts. First, we will talk about Tesla, the king of the West. Second, we will talk about BYD's strategy and plan to enter the EV car market in the West. And then finally, we will give you our take on whether this is going to be a successful one or not. So guys, even before watching the video, please go into the comment and tell us what you think of BYD's plan in Europe. And also like the video as usual, and we need your support, so subscribe to the channel. So there, let's dive into the first topic. Tesla, the king of the West. So what's your thoughts or your opinion on Tesla at the moment and their kind of outlook on the market or outlook on their positioning?
Tesla has a very good positioning as far as in the electric car space, right? They have cornered the market in the US, the first and biggest seller of electric cars in the US. And they are still the biggest seller of electric car in the Europe as well. Already they have a very good position as far as electric car are concerned. Talking about competition from other manufacturers like Toyota, Ford, GM, all the ICE car makers, right? They are having a very difficult time to compete with Tesla. That's because Tesla has good vertical integration for producing their cars. They manufacture about 68% of their car parts. When you compare that to some of the best ICE car manufacturers like Volkswagen, which only manufactures 35% of their car parts. They have had a lot of difficulty competing with Tesla. And I don't think that the competition is going to come from traditional car manufacturers as far as electric cars are concerned.
Okay. I mean, I think you've made a lot of good points. Tesla, they've enjoyed a great positioning on the market thanks to the things that you mentioned. But going forward, I would say that it's not going to be the same. And
Right.
already you can see that they are struggling. The first thing out of the gate that I wanted to mention is the fact that Elon Musk told us that Tesla is a tech company, which is something
Right.
I don't agree with at all. The company is basically an automotive company, just like the other ones. And they have the same struggles as the other automotive companies. And because of this lie, Tesla has been valued as such a high market cap. And this is not great for anyone. So let me just show you a quick chart here that shows Tesla's market cap and how that compares to tech companies. And I'm sure you will just be like, this is crazy.
I think the market cap right now is about 500 billion, right? Or actually, it went
Yes.
up as of this minute is at 616 billion.
So this is the price per earnings multiple.
Right.
So basically dividing the earnings of the company by the number of shares.
Right.
And you can see that Tesla's one is higher than Nvidia's one, meaning that Tesla is valued as like at a higher point in terms of price and earning multiples comparing to Nvidia, which is crazy.
Yeah, that
And
was
this
again
is
back in 2023. This has all
um
changed now.
yeah, but if you check now, you can see the chart, right? So
All right.
from I would say around mid 2023, Tesla is still at the top. And here we are not talking about just the stock price. We are
Right. Right.
talking
Right.
about the earnings divided by the number of
The
shares.
shares. Yeah.
So if Tesla has less share or Nvidia has more, so these things will play.
Right. Right.
And basically what I'm saying is that Tesla is still has a very
Overvalued.
strong valuation on the market. And
Yeah.
this is something that they are leveraging very much. So that was my first point, and that was a little bit long. Sorry for that. Beside that, the other things that I wanted to mention actually all come from their Q4 result. And the first thing that they say in that quarterly earnings report was that they are projecting that their sales is going to be decreasing in 2024. And beside that, there are other things that decreased their margin in the last quarter of last year. And those things were around the sales volume that decreased.
Right.
And to get that volume back, they had to cut the price of cars, especially the Model 3 and the Model Y here in the UK and then in the US as well.
Even in
And
China.
and all those things really doesn't help Tesla.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will stop there for now. I'm not sure if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, I remember when I heard the news when they were cutting prices, my first thought was that sales were going down. And a lot of Tesla fans were commenting that, no, this is good. That means more people are going to buy, all that. I'm like, seriously? When you have a product that everybody wants to buy, why will you reduce the price? Like if demand is high, you don't reduce price when demand is high. Look at the iPhone. The price goes up every year. Clearly that was a sign. And like a month after they announced that, a report that some Chinese people who bought the car went to the Tesla dealership and were complaining about the fact that they reduced the price.
So another thing that I wanted to mention as well is about the operating margin of Tesla. That also has been decreased in the past 3 years or so.
And that's all going to the fact that they are reducing the prices. And
Yes.
when a company is reducing prices, that means either two things. They are facing severe competition or people don't want the product they are selling. Is either one of those two things, right?
Yeah.
And in this case, I think there's a little bit of that happening, especially in China, much less in Europe and the US, which are the biggest car markets in the world. But now China has overtaken that and they are producing some of these cars in house, right? BYD is a Chinese company and is just going to make things more difficult for Tesla.
Another thing that I wanted to highlight as well regarding the operating margin is the spike that you see from 2021.
Yep.
That's actually because of new car launches. So I remember that around that time they launched the Model Y.
Model Y and Model 3.
And Model Y is the best selling model for Tesla.
Right.
That's one of the problems that all automotive companies face, which is the fact that their cash is very volatile based on when they launch a new product. That's something that I wanted to mention as well. But overall, right, Tesla outlook is not looking super amazing. I remember we made a video about the Cybertruck. We were all hyped up about it. But to be honest with you, the volume that they are expecting from the Cybertruck is very low. And during the earning calls as well, they were trying to reduce people or manage people's expectation regarding the financial impact of the Cybertruck. So if you put all those things together and then you add on top of that the fact that Tesla is about to recall around 2.2 million cars that they sold in the US because of a visual warning light safety issue. So
isn't that
this
a
was
software
announced.
update?
No, I think you actually need to go there. I was reading an
Okay.
article about that.
Because
You actually need to go there and they will fix it for you.
okay, because many times press has gone on saying that Tesla is recalling video cars when it was just a software update over the air.
I see.
Yeah, you have to be very careful about those things.
Yeah. And beside those ones that I mentioned, there are other two issues that they are facing. And it is about the Hertz deal that they had. So initially, I believe Hertz wanted to buy, they made an agreement to buy around 100,000 Tesla cars. And finally, they bought, I think, around 20,000 cars, I believe. But basically, what I'm trying to say here is that Hertz has decided that, they are not going to honor that agreement anymore. And the reason being that the repair cost and
It's very high.
Exactly, is very high. And also
they are selling
Tesla
those cars as well.
Exactly. They are selling 20,000 of them. And they are saying that resale value of those cars as well is not great. And to kind of counter all those things, Elon Musk has been trying to build a plant in Mexico as well. And according to him, that's going to help him in reducing the cost of manufacturing of Tesla. But overall, right, what I'm saying here with all those things that I'm pointing out is the fact that the outlook for Tesla doesn't look super amazing. And they are not the king of the West, basically. There is competition coming from them, for
Yeah,
them.
yeah, definitely there is competition, but the outlook, like you said, is gonna be they actually have to compete now, and although it's not too bad for them, I don't think it's the way people are trying to make it in the news of as if Tesla is gonna shut down or something or stop working or I don't know. But if you look at all the documentaries of people comparing BYD and Tesla, BYD is selling most of their cars in China, not in the West. Is very unfair to say that although they are selling more cars, they don't have big control of the, I'll say,
Ye-
the second most important markets in the world,
mhm.
which is the US and Europe.
Let me just share a few figures in terms of the sales for people to really understand what's happening. In 2023, if you take the whole year, Tesla still sold more EV cars than BYD. Tesla sold 1.8 million EV cars globally, while BYD sold 1.6.
That was
That was
what
in
year?
2023. So in the last quarter of 2023, that's when BYD sold more car than Tesla. Just the last quarter of 2023. And this goes back to what you were saying regarding Tesla, which is the fact that the news seems to be a little bit biased, really. And I think that's because of Elon Musk's character and what he's perceived to be, right? So the news is really kind of negative regarding everything that comes around Tesla and stuff. But those are the fact. It's not that in 2023, BYD sold more car than Tesla. It's just in the last quarter of 2023. Let's now dive into BYD and their plan and how they are really tackling the West market. To kind of start this, I would like to clarify and just throw some numbers out there again. First, in terms of sales in Europe for EV cars, what they sold last year in 2023 was around 13,000 EV cars, which is nothing.
Yeah,
Nothing at all. And Tesla sold 270,000 cars. That's only in Europe. But if you add the
US
US
and
one to
China.
it, that will
Yeah.
take it up to 1.8 million, as we said. But in the West, BYD, they sold only 13,000 a car. What do you know about their plan, BYD, and how do you think that plan is going to go?
There are multiple angles from which you can look at this, right? The one of the first one will be policies between countries. I'm gonna start there. Already that is gonna make it very difficult for BYD to have access to the US market. Why? Because the US is very protective of its manufacturing ecosystem, which seems to be not be the case in Europe. I don't know what is happening in Europe, but they are not doing a good job at that. So
Are you sure?
I know it's gonna happen as well. Like they are going to take the same stance as the US, but it seems that BYD is trying to corner the Europe market first before targeting the US. They do have manufacturing plant here in the
Mm,
US, where they produce forklifts and trucks
mm.
and sometimes buses, but not at a very big or important level where Tesla needs to worry about anything. And Tesla doesn't even play in those, specifically the bus and forklift market. Tesla doesn't play in those yet. We don't need to worry about that. In Europe, the Chinese manufacturers are bringing in a lot of cars, and they are also selling a lot there. And from what I've researched, BYD is trying to open a plant in Hungary. And once they do that, then it's going to be very tough for Tesla. Tesla has a plant in Germany, I know, but producing in Hungary versus producing in Germany is not going to be the same thing. The cost is going to be lower. And I think that's the approach that BYD is taking. We're looking at countries in Europe where cost of life is relatively low compared to the big countries like France, Germany, and UK, and creating their plants there. There is that. So once that happens, competition will become even more harder for Tesla. So that's not a good thing for Tesla. But I don't
Yeah.
know as far as pricing, because they are choosing like low cost of life locations, again, is going to help them maintain their pricing. Currently, most of their vehicles are 8,000 to 10,000 cheaper than Teslas. And on the other side as well, BYD controls their manufacturing at a deeper level than Tesla.
Sure.
We have to remember that BYD started as battery manufacturer. They have a big battery manufacturing plant, and batteries are 40% of the car
The
cost,
cost.
basically.
Yep.
To create a car, the part that costs the most is the battery, right?
It's battery, yeah.
So it's almost half what you spend on producing a
Yeah.
car. That's there. They have an advantage there because they even sell batteries to Tesla as well.
I totally agree with what you said, right? I think the guys at BYD, they are genius. They are very smart.
Yep.
And what they've done here is that they decided to go after the low-hanging fruit first, which is the European market. And then after that, they will focus on the US market. EU market, their focus and their goal is that by 2030, they will be able to catch 10% of that market share. So just think about that for a second. So now their share is literally nothing, 0.0 something percent of the
Right.
market. And in 6 years, they are planning to have 10%. And the way they are planning to do this, you mentioned or you touch on some of them, is basically first to have like a product lineup that's very good and that will appeal to people in Europe. So they are bringing basically 5 model where they will have like 2 SUVs, sedans, and then they will also have like a city car they will sell. And those city cars in Europe, people love them here, right? Secondly, they will be building something here, which is the plant in Hungary that you mentioned. And in terms of distribution as well, they are already present in 15 countries in Europe.
Right.
And that's like, they did that really fast. And these people, the leaders of this company, I really think they are visionaries because when I look at what they've done in the past, I'm like, they are crazy. They are amazing. So regarding just going a little bit back, right? Regarding their battery path and how they want that market to become the second largest battery manufacturer in the world. When they started, they didn't have any contact in Europe or in US, and they were unable to sell to any of the companies here. And at the beginning, they were just selling batteries for mobile phones. What they do was that one of the executives, the sales executive, she's a lady, her name is Lee. And what she did basically was that she just jumped into a plane, put tons of batteries in a container, and then came to Europe. She got into a cab and she asked taxi driver, where can I sell these batteries? Who are the people that need these batteries? They took her to a market and then showed her a bunch of people that sell phone. And then from there on, this lady started selling their batteries. She did the same thing, came to the US, came to Atlanta at the headquarters of Motorola with her batteries without no appointment. She didn't know anyone. And she was coming there, day after day to ask if she can meet the procurement guys. They said no many, many times. They got tired. They let her in. She presented her product, made her pitch. She won the market. And then at the end, they were even making mobile phones for Motorola. They are amazing. Another story, right? Before they dive into like EV market, they didn't have money to do EVs because they were just in batteries, right? They were looking for money, and Warren Buffett, one of his advisors, to go there and visit the factory and see if they are, worth an investment. So the founder of BYD, who is called Wang Chuanfu, this guy made his pitch in the factory, right? And to show that his EV battery is very safe, he poured a glass of battery fluid and then drank it in front of the guy. And these people, they are like determined and they are just amazing. And going back again in the past, Ryan.
Well, if you are going to get 230 million, man, I don't know if I'll drink battery fluid, but man, you deserve that money.
Maybe the battery is just that good. I don't know. But basically, that's how they kind of invested in the battery. And then later on, the EV started coming out. But in 2019, right, Tesla opened basically a factory in Shanghai. And because of this, their sales just went down. Sales decreased by, I believe, 20%. And their earnings fell massively. They went back to the drawing board and they came back with their blade battery, right?
Right.
And because of this blade battery, they were able to even decrease the cost even lower than what Tesla was doing. And
Right.
this blade battery was just a game changer. And that's how they were able to beat Tesla in China, because otherwise Tesla was winning in China as well.
Yep.
Well, that's how they managed to beat Tesla. So basically, based on the story and what these guys did in the past, they are a very brilliant person.
Yep.
And I really, really think that with their plan, they are going to be able to do a great job in Europe. But
Wang is a visionary for sure, because just like Tesla, where people claim that it's not just a car company, is a tech company, right? Because they are doing AI, they are doing, robotics and all that stuff, self-driving cars. The founder of BYD has also been able to diversify his business the same way. They started with batteries, then they went to cars. They have the battery business going,
yeah,
right? They have the car business.
do you know how they got into car actually?
Yeah,
Okay, do you remember when I was in China, right? I
right.
was hearing this story of Chinese people buying cars and then breaking the car down and then rebuilding it. And I really thought all those time that this was a joke. But actually, that was the truth back then. And that's what they were doing, these guys. And
Mm.
that's really crazy. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, China is good at reverse engineering stuff. If they can
Yeah.
invent it, they will buy it or steal the plans and build it. They did that to one of the Boeing warplanes from here in America. So they sent some Chinese students to come here, go to school, get a job at Boeing, steal the plans, and go back to China. I'm telling you, this is a real story. Look it up. And the Chinese were able to build that same warplane, just like the Boeing warplane. It is what it is, guys. We are just telling the story. But they
What
are
it is.
very good at reverse engineering stuff. And Steve just said it best, right? The best artist still, or something like that. I don't remember the quote, but it goes something like that. So BYD, I was saying that they diversify their business very well. They have a chip segment where they produce all the chips for their cars. They have battery segment, they have the car segment, and they also have now the transportation or shipping segment. They have built big ships to ship their cars.
Yeah.
Some of those ships can take up to 7,000 cars. That is crazy. And they
Yeah.
are trying to build, I think, 5 this year. Think about that.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
one thing they have also done that we didn't mention earlier is that even before targeting Europe, they targeted South America and Australia and most of the Asian market as well, like Thailand, the Philippines, and other countries like that in Asia, where they are, as far as electric cars, they are the best sellers over there. Even before looking at Europe, that this is what they were doing. And Tesla is not even prominent in those markets because the prices wouldn't make sense, right?
Exactly.
So
You
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 can't
said it.
ignore what they are doing.
These people, they are very smart and they are going after the low hanging fruits
Right.
where they can win first, where they can win easily, and then they will face the last one. I mean, the strongest or the hardest market at the end. In all those markets that you mentioned, they are very known and they are doing really, really well there. I mean, we are talking about like a lot of positive things.
Yep.
There are a few bad things around them as well, right?
Right.
And two that I came across. So the first one is around their stock. So a few weeks ago, their stock fell as well. And that was because of their earnings that of the last quarter of 2023 that was published. And they did really, really well. But according to analysts, they didn't meet the expectations. And
Right.
basically, their earning decreased because of a lot of discount and price cut that they did as well around November and December to drive sales. And they were hoping that by doing that for their cheaper cars, they will still sell some luxury car that will improve their margin, but that didn't happen. So the margin didn't do well as expected. So because of that, their stock fell a little bit. So that's one thing. Secondly, it is the fact that they are heavily subsidy backed by the Chinese
Chinese.
government. And to be honest with you, I'm not even sure why I'm mentioning this here because I think this is something normal. All the European countries they do this, and they still do it for their agriculture kind of sector and many other sectors, so that countries such as Brazil or countries in the third world basically don't overtake or destroy that industry for them. So I think that's something pretty normal, but they've had a very bad press regarding that. And this links really well into what's happening in Europe, because their intention to really penetrate this market is, so basically Europe, the EU Commission is now investigating them, saying that, okay, you've received a lot of subsidies, cash subsidies, so maybe you have an unfair advantage comparing to other players on the market. So I don't know how that's going to end up, but I hope that's not going to make Europe ask them to pay a price or do something stupid on the market. But yeah, that's what I
Well,
would say.
ultimately, Europe will have to defend its own interests by protecting their car industry. Because if you think about it, that's the only thing Europe has left. Like,
Yeah, but what car industry though? You know, as you say, the internal combustion engine cars makers, that's all they are doing. They don't even have the new platform that can do. I mean, they just started building those new platform.
and it's
So
not
it's
even
very
working out for them. Like,
exactly. So
Volkswagen was unable to really sell their electric
ex-
cars. Same with Fords here.
that's a very good point that you brought, because Volkswagen, right, used to be one of the leaders of the car market in China.
Right.
Most of the cars in China were Volkswagen.
Yes.
And in the EV space, they fell drastically because they wanted to sell their ID3. I don't know if
Yeah,
you know that. It's
I've
the
seen that. Yeah.
Polo, the EV Polo basically. And that car wasn't as good as, so first that car came a little bit late, and second it wasn't that good as BYD's Atto 3 or Atto something. So
Yep.
that's their very small car, and they lost a lot of market share in China basically, and that's one of the reasons why they are not doing well at the moment.
Europe brought some of these on itself by promoting electric cars, being green, and all these things, right? Because if you think about it, China
Yeah,
didn't even use to export cars.
yeah,
Now they are one of the biggest exporters of cars. Because Europe has created these laws, is Europe going to go back on its word and say, hey, make more ICE cars because our industry is going to get destroyed?
I
It's
mean,
not going to stop. And
yeah, it's not
people
gonna stop.
are, especially for cars which are very big ticket items, meaning they're expensive, people are very price sensitive. If
True.
the price is good enough, the product is good enough, people will prefer that to something that's, even if it's more reliable, people are going to say, hey, I can drive this for 5 years. It's probably not going to break down as much and it's going to cost me half. I'll rather buy that.
Especially if they've seen the leader drinking the battery fluid. So, I mean, in terms of our take, right? Me on my side, let me just start with me instead of asking you first all the time. But on my side, what I would say is that BYD is likely to become the Toyota of the automotive industry, let's say in the next 5 to 10 years. I really think that they are going to succeed in the EU, and they will do that because they have a larger portfolio, a product portfolio comparing to Tesla and then the other car manufacturers in terms of EV. Their cars are high quality and they are cheap as well, and they are vertically integrated as well, highly integrated comparing to the other automotive manufacturers. And lastly, I will add their leaders are visionaries, and that's the reason why I believe that they will become the Toyota of the EV
Yep.
market, let's say in 5 or 10 years.
Kind of nailed it. I was going to use a phone analogy. I was going to say they will be the Android in the Android of smartphones in the car market, electric car market.
As a tech guy, I understand. Don't worry.
Right? That's how I look at it. I also think they will be successful because they have all the tools that they need to do that. The only thing that can stop them now is policies around the world. And that's going to be difficult because Europe and the rest of the world trade a lot with China. And if you want to maintain a good trading relationship, you are not going to be able to block everything, especially when you yourself sell cars in China. So if you block it over there and they block it over
Will
here,
block you.
right, tit for tat, then that's not going to work. So electric cars, they are able to maintain lower price and relatively good quality cars. Ultimately, they will be the Toyota, like you said, of the electric car world. But I think that's what they are going for. They are not trying to be the Lamborghini or the iPhone. Because if you look back, the first car they produced looked like a Toyota Corolla. That was
Funny,
their first car.
when I was
Right.
in China, I used to see this car all the time.
Mm.
This car was exactly like the Toyota Corolla, but at the front I would see BYD. I was like, what is this? What is this brand? I mean, I've never seen this. And do you know what people were doing in China back then?
No.
They will go and then buy BYD and then swap the BYD logo with Toyota, and then they'll be driving around with that.
That sounds such. That sounds really like something. Something that will happen in China.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
That's so
crazy.
funny.
That's crazy. That's crazy. But yeah, I mean, only the mechanic is gonna know, right?
Right.
The car is like exactly the same.
I've seen the pictures.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly the same.
It really resembles the Toyota.
Thank you for listening. We hope you've enjoyed the content. Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe.
Me and my buddy, we making all of this money. Yeah, I know it's rude to be bragging. They never catching us lacking. Me and my buddy, we working hard for this money.